Hello everyone and welcome back to another Bedwars video, and today we're going to be talking about Bedwars PvP and how you can improve. In my previous guide about how to win Bedwars, you guys really supported the part where I talked about Bedwars PvP and talked about some tips such as getting on top of the other opponent, and I thought I would expand on that and make a full-fledged guide about that. But we're going to be talking about Bedwars PvP, and I'm going to start off with the first thing I tell every single person when they ask me how to win fights in Bedwars, because I talk a lot about, I guess, it's very important to win your first rush and fight this player, but people always tell me, what if I'm not good at PvP, and what if I can't win the fight? That basically, which is a good point, I guess, because it basically, the entire guide, the entire winning Bedwars process relies on you being able to have some competence in PvP. But if you're not good at PvP, that doesn't work out. And I thought I'd make this guide about PvP because PvP is a skill that you master, but in Bedwars you don't really need much of it, and I'm not very good at PvP. But I still managed to win Bedwars, and I'm going to talk about some very important skills that aren't too hard to actually learn. Okay, he's coming to my base, he said he fell off. Okay. That aren't too hard to learn because it's not something that takes time to master, it's just a matter of doing it. It's much more simple than you'd actually think. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is getting on top of the opponent, which I talked about in my previous guide, but I'm just going to talk about it again since it is very, very important. When you're fighting someone, always get on top of them or above them, especially if they're good. Never, I guess, do what I like to call a flat fight. And see, I got on top of him, I managed to knock him off and win, I guess. It's very hard to get knocked off when you jump on someone, even on a bridge, because they will knock you, but you have the momentum to move forward, and I guess that makes it very hard for them to knock you off. For most players, this is actually probably the main tip you will ever need for your Bedwars PvP, since 90% of people will, I guess, fail to this tip. Occasionally, however, you will have some stronger players that perhaps when you get on top of them, they'll move back, or I guess not just stand up and try and jump up to you where you can just jump down to them. In this situation, you will need to, I guess, do some more advanced techniques, which I will go into right away. And now, before you start jumping into these techniques, always remember the primary principle for winning a fight is most of the time getting on top of the opponent, because when you get on top of the opponent, you have a lot of options and you have a position of power, I guess. Whereas the opponent, okay, DC reseed, doesn't have many. They're vulnerable to you. If they move back, you can jump on them or knock them off. If they move up, you can jump on them again. If they, I guess, just go down, you are safe and they are just vulnerable, I guess, if that makes more sense. Oh, this is bad. Okay, we're gonna go up. He's gonna get some hits on me, and I'm gonna block his head in. Get up here. Okay, I'm actually alone with this guy. I can just fireball him. That was pretty useful. I didn't realize he didn't have a bed. But getting into these techniques, one thing you can, I guess, try out in your game is instead of getting on top of them, as you can see, I've gotten on top of him here. And I can just jump down. I get the first few hits on him, and by the time he's back, so he got a combo on me. I have good gear, thankfully, but I already got a few hits on him, so I wasn't in a bad situation where I would potentially be in a lot of danger because I managed to get those first few hits on him. Now, another tip isn't actually related to PvP, but it's just Bedwars in general, and it's getting an Invis potion, because with an Invis potion they can't see you, which means you'll have the element of surprise. Well, this guy's actually pretty smart, so I will not have the element of surprise, but I have a pearl, so that works out with half a heart. But with the element of surprise, when you have invis, you can invis, and it doesn't matter if they know you've invised, because what they can do is they're probably going to just be worried or start running or do something like that, and you will almost certainly, with nearly 100% chance, even if you have bad ping, get the first hit on them. And that's important because with the first hit you can get or branch off into a combo which can basically kill them on the spot, or you can either get away, you can knock them into the void, or basically put yourself in a very, very good position within this. A lot of people see this as just like a silent way of getting into someone's base, but no, it can be used for much more than that. In my winning guide, I actually talked about a very sneaky tip you can do with invis, and I highly recommend you see that, because that is it's very smart and a very fun tip to use. It can be very useful. In fact, I'm probably going to use it right now, just since we have someone. Never mind, white's dead. Okay, we're not going to be using this unless yellow is pretty good. But yeah, with tips, I'm also going to talk about what if the other opponent's on top of you, because I don't think I've actually gone into this. If the other player's on top of you, still try and get on top of them. Jump can be pretty useful for this, but if it's pretty certain that you aren't able to get on top of them, run away. In this situation, I ran away because I was getting surrounded. I basically ran away. But if someone's on top of you, don't try and build up to them, because that's not going to work. Don't try and, I guess, stay down and wait for them to jump on you, because that's also not going to work. And I'm not playing very smart right now. These guys are actually pretty good. Thankfully, I've got green on my side. Gonna break his bed. I'm gonna fireball. And speaking of that, fireballs. Fireballs can be very useful for getting another player out of their very high and good position, because they can knock them off their bridge or ledge or whatever they're standing on. If you are in a bad position where you are down and you are in the position where they've jumped on you, you're almost certainly going to die, but I have a few tips for, I guess, getting out of the combo that you're almost certainly going to be in. One is to just run away or hide behind a wall and then perhaps try and get a combo on them. As you can see, I got into a combo with yellow comboed me. However, I stood behind this ledge where he couldn't see me or couldn't attack me, and then I came back and comboed him. But yeah, that's basically how it works. And another, I guess, good tip you can use is getting jump potions, because jump can be seen as another getaway tool. That's a common thing people associate the jump potion with. However, it can also be very useful for getting on top of the other player. After all, it is a jump potion. So if another player's on top of you, or if you're just trying to get on top of them, jump, and now you're officially on top of them. I'm gonna follow him, and if he turns back to try and fight me, let's try and, oh, okay, jump, get on top, get the first hit, get a combo, and I've killed him and got 4 emeralds. And you can actually see how simple this tip is. A lot of the tips that I'm talking about branch off from the original rule of getting on top of the other player. It is such a useful tool that if you look at any good players' games, you can see them using this quite a lot. It's very simple, very effective, and it works nearly all the time. Obviously, there are the combat assistance tools. The KB stick, aside from being a good thing you can use to get or knock someone off into the void, it's very useful for getting away from someone. You can KB stick them, and instead of getting to a fight with them, you can just run away. So the key with the Bedwars PvP is, one, getting on top of the other player, and using items in a way that can assist you in getting on top of the other player. Now I'm also going to be talking about some tips to help you with flat fights for any reason where you may not be able to get on top of the other player. These tips can help you if you're in I like to call it a flat fight. So first example, you are fighting someone. Try and block their, I guess, movement, because PvP basically works where people can combo you if they're moving towards you constantly, and I guess by making a barrier between you and them. Let's say this is someone fighting me, and I block them off, they run towards this block, and they're not moving forwards anymore because they're stuck, which means they're not getting any forward momentum on me, and I can then combo them off. I don't know the exact mechanics behind this. I'm not a PvP expert, as I've talked about before. Intel Edits has made very good videos about this, but blocking someone can make a great way to break their momentum or break their combo, and it can be very useful for getting a combo on them yourself. Look at some more good players like Kashido or someone like that, and you will see they very frequently, just when they're fighting, they will block someone off and then combo them. Speed, as I talked about before, can also be utilized, obviously, to help you in flat fights. Speed means you're moving forward faster, moving towards your opponent faster, which can be very helpful in a PvP fight. Another thing some people like to do is, I guess, You can use the KB stick, or you can just use your normal sword. You can block them off, you can knock them away, and then build up on them, and then jump on them. It can be very useful for, I guess, employing the old jump on top of them technique when you're on top of them. As I said, another strategy linked to getting on top of the opponent. And now, some general PvP advice. In PvP, probably the most important aspect to your PvP is aim. People make a big deal about clicking 20 CPS, or I guess W tapping and strafing, but aim is so important, because if you can't aim, it's not going to be very useful to you, is it? With this instance where I got this combo on him, a lot of people may just fail in their aim when he did that thing where he jumped behind me, and then I would not be able to aim, and then the player would be able to combo me. But thankfully my aim worked well, and I tracked him and got my combo on him. Strafing is another thing that can help once you've mastered your aim. Which aim, I will say, it comes from practice. People do play a lot of aim games and stuff like that, but generally the best way to improve your aim is just by playing. But yes, aim is very important, and after you master your aim, you can move on to strafing, where you, obviously, it's basically moving around the opponent using your, for most people, A or D keys, or for me it's my left and right arrow keys, where I can move around the opponent, which basically works by, one, you could get a better angle on your opponent, perhaps knock them into the void or a bad spot, or you could help them mess up their aim so that you can get a combo on them. W tapping is obviously the next step from this. Generally, you want to progress from aim to strafing, and then maybe W tapping, or I guess sprint resetting is a better way to say this, or ending their sprint, which involves blocking them off. Obviously, this is where you will try and master this technique as well. But yep, sprint resetting, which means S tapping, W tapping, shift tapping, which looks very strange. Some people still do it in sumo duels and stuff like that. Or, I guess, block hitting, which is probably something people are most familiar with. Basically, easy way to say this is the player, you're running to them, you hit them, tap W, or I mean not tap W, release W and tap it again. So I will, I guess, try and demonstrate this. I want a flat fight, he's getting on top of me, smart, he's trying to block me off. Okay, smart. As I was trying to say before, this guy did actually probably outsmart me there. I'll just talk about that for a bit as well. He moved up on me, I moved back, which was the right thing to do, but I got myself in a bad position near the corner. He comboed me because he's probably better at PvP than I am. I actually did a pretty good job of trying to get away, where I blocked him off and ran the other way, but unfortunately I didn't choose the right path after that. I probably should have gone through that bridge, but I instead went straight and mistimed the jump and fell off. He was actually a fan as well, if you look at the pre-game chat. As I was trying to say, you're fighting someone, hit them and then retap W, which will reset your sprint and help you deal more knockback to them. You can do this with block hitting, which can also reduce the amount of damage to take. However, it is usually less effective than W tapping. So block hitting reduces the damage you take, however it's not as of a strong push as as W tapping, and S tapping is very powerful because it completely stops your movement instantly, which can be very useful to get good combos, but it is a more risky option. Once you've finished working on all of these various skills I've mentioned, is when you can start working on the probably less important but still pretty useful features or stuff like clicking fast, or I guess in Bed Wars bridging, but make sure these are secondary and aren't sacrificing the primary skills such as your aim. Your clicking speed should never be prioritized over your aim, because obviously when you click fast, your aim might not be as good, so make sure your aim is still just as good, and if you are struggling, you can always lower your clicking speed that's comfortable to, I guess, work with your aim. I think I mentioned bridging. Bridging is not really a PvP skill. I don't think that would make sense. But bridging, just on bridging, I guess it's not as important as you would think. Speed bridging is fine, and a lot of people can speed bridge. If you can't, I've made a whole big guide about that, so you can go and watch that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this shorter guide about Bedwars PvP, and I hope it helped you win more fights, and I guess hopefully win more games, and use my guides better. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.